Welcome, dear dreamer. You're safe here now. Let the worries of the day quietly drift away, like clouds across a calm night sky. Tonight we're taking a peaceful journey to a place where stories breathe softly through the wind. A place of olive trees, golden light, and ancient whispers, where mythology floats gently like mist over mountaintops. Close your eyes and feel yourself sinking deeper into comfort. Your breathing is slow and steady, like gentle waves upon a distant shore. Tonight we travel to ancient Greece, to a time when gods walked among mortals and music held the power to heal hearts and calm troubled minds. You are drifting now, drifting toward Mount Parnassus, where the sacred laurel trees sway in the evening breeze. The air is warm and fragrant, with the scent of wildflowers and herbs. As you float closer, you can hear it, the most beautiful sound you've ever experienced. It's the gentle plucking of a golden lyre, its notes floating through the twilight air like drops of liquid starlight. The golden god's evening song. Apollo, the radiant god of music, poetry, and healing, sits on a marble terrace overlooking the peaceful valley below. His golden hair catches the last rays of the setting sun, creating a soft halo around his serene face. In his hands rests his cherished lyre, crafted by Hermes himself from the shell of a tortoise and strung with threads of pure light. The god's fingers dance across the strings with infinite tenderness, creating melodies that seem to speak directly to your soul. Each note is perfectly formed, hanging in the air for just the right amount of time before dissolving into the next. The music doesn't rush or demand attention. It simply exists, as natural and necessary as breathing. You find yourself drawn closer, not with urgency, but with the gentle pull of a leaf following a stream. Apollo's eyes are closed, his face peaceful, as if he too is being carried away by his own divine music. This is not a performance for others. This is music in its purest form, the sound of harmony itself made manifest. As you settle into this sacred space, you notice you're not alone. Gentle creatures have gathered to listen. Deer step delicately from the forest, their large eyes soft with contentment. Rabbits sit perfectly still, their usual alertness replaced by deep tranquility. Even the trees seem to lean in, their leaves rustling in rhythm with Apollo's melody. The story begins. Once upon a time, Apollo's voice joins his lyre, soft as silk and warm as honey. In the days when the world was younger and magic flowed as freely as mountain streams, there lived a small village nestled in a valley blessed by the gods. His words float on the evening air, each syllable carefully chosen and lovingly spoken. You can see this village now, as if Apollo's voice is painting pictures in your mind with brushstrokes of pure imagination. The village was called Armona, and it was the most peaceful place in all of Greece. Whitewashed houses with terracotta roofs dotted the hillsides like scattered seashells. Olive groves stretched in neat rows, their silver-green leaves whispering secrets to the wind. Gardens overflowed with jasmine, rosemary, and lavender, filling the air with their soothing fragrances. In this village, time moved differently than in the bustling cities. Here, people woke with the sun and slept with the stars. Children played simple games with wooden toys, their laughter mixing with the sound of wind chimes hanging from every doorway. Elders sat in shaded courtyards, sharing stories that had been passed down through generations, like precious family treasures. The village of Harmonia. The people of Harmonia, Apollo continues, his lyre providing a gentle accompaniment, had discovered something that many search for their entire lives, the secret of true contentment. You can see them now, the baker rising before dawn, to knead dough with hands that know exactly how much pressure to apply, how many turns to make. The shepherd leading his flock to graze in meadows where the grass grows sweetest. The weaver working at her loom with the fingers that move like dancers, creating patterns that seem to capture sunlight itself. What made these people special wasn't any great magic or divine gift. It was their understanding that happiness comes not from having more, but from appreciating what is already present. They had learned to find wonder in the ordinary, the way morning light filters through olive leaves, the taste of water from the village well, the feeling of cool earth beneath bare feet. Every evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, the villagers would gather in the central square. They would share simple meals of bread, cheese, olives, and wine that tasted of sunshine and soil. Children would curl up in their grandparents' laps, listening to stories that always ended with gentle lessons about kindness, patience, and love. Apollo's music grows softer still, each note like a gentle caress. In this village, he says, lived a young woman named Lyra, whose heart held a special gift. Lyra's gift. Lyra was known throughout Harmonia for her extraordinary ability to bring peace wherever she went. She wasn't a priestess or a healer in the traditional sense. She was simply a young woman who carried tranquility within her, like a hidden spring of cool water. When babies cried, they would quiet at the sound of her voice. When neighbors disagreed, her presence seemed to remind them of what truly mattered. When storms threatened the village, she would stand in her garden and sing soft lullabies, and somehow the thunder would grow gentle, the lightning would dance rather than strike, and the rain would fall with the rhythm of a mother's heartbeat. Lyra herself was unaware of her gift. She believed that everyone possessed this ability to create calm. She simply happened to remember to use it. Her days were spent tending to her small garden, where she grew the most beautiful flowers anyone had ever seen, not because she used any special techniques or magical fertilizers, but because she tended each plant with the same loving attention she gave to everything in her life. Her garden was a sanctuary of color and fragrance. Roses climbed wooden trellises, their petals soft as silk scarves. Herbs grew in neat rows, their leaves perfect for brewing teas that could soothe any worry. Fruit trees provided shade and sustenance, their branches heavy with offerings of sweetness. But Lyra's greatest joy, Apollo's voice grows even more tender, came not from her garden or her gift, but from the simple pleasure of listening to the world's natural music. The music of the world. Every morning, Lyra would wake before dawn and step into her garden to listen, not to any instrument or human voice, but to the symphony that the world itself performed for those wise enough to pay attention. She could hear the conversation between leaves as they rustled in different languages depending on their tree. Oak leaves spoke in deep, steady tones, while willow leaves whispered like gentle rain. The bird song wasn't just random chirping to her ears, but elaborate melodies filled with messages of joy, warnings, love songs, and lullabies for newly hatched chicks. Water had its own music too. The village fountain played a steady, comforting rhythm, while the stream that flowed past her garden gurgled and laughed as it danced over smooth stones. Even the insects contributed their part, bees humming as they worked, crickets providing evening percussion, and butterflies whose wings made sounds too soft for most to hear, but which Lyra caught like whispered prayers. This natural symphony played constantly, she realized, but most people were too busy to listen. They rushed through their days focused on destinations rather than the journey, on tomorrow's worries rather than today's miracles. Apollo's lyre seems to echo these natural sounds, weaving bird calls and water music into his divine melody. One morning, he continues, as Lyra sat in her garden listening to the world's song, something extraordinary happened. The morning of change. The sun was just beginning to paint the eastern hills with gentle gold when Lyra settled into her favorite spot, a small stone bench beneath an ancient olive tree that had been growing for longer than anyone could remember. She closed her eyes and let her mind become quiet, opening her heart to receive whatever music the world wanted to share. At first, she heard the familiar sounds, the fountain's steady rhythm, the morning conversation of sparrows, the soft whisper of wind through grain. But gradually she became aware of something new, a melody so beautiful and pure that it seemed to come from the very essence of peace itself. The music wasn't coming from any earthly source she could identify. It seemed to rise from the ground beneath her feet, float down from the sky above, and emanate from the air around her. It was as if the universe itself had learned to sing, and its song was one of pure love and infinite calm. As she listened, Lyra felt something shift within her, the gift she had always carried. Her ability to bring peace to others suddenly expanded and clarified, like a candle flame growing brighter and steadier. She understood in that moment that this divine music had always been there, waiting for someone with a quiet enough heart to hear it. The melody continued to flow through her, filling every cell of her being with warmth and light. She felt connected to everything, the plants in her garden, the village sleeping peacefully nearby, the mountains in the distance, and something even greater that she couldn't name, but could feel surrounding her, like a loving embrace. The divine presence. As the celestial music continued to flow around and through her, Lyra slowly opened her eyes. The world looked exactly the same as it had moments before, yet everything was transformed. Colors seemed more vivid, edges softer, and the air itself appeared to shimmer with barely visible threads of golden light. Standing before her, barely more substantial than morning mist, but undeniably present, was a figure of such radiant beauty that Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She knew immediately who this was, though she had never seen him before. Apollo, the god of music and healing, had come to her garden. His appearance was gentle rather than overwhelming. His golden hair seemed to capture and hold sunlight, and his eyes held the depth of someone who has witnessed all of creation's joys and sorrows. In his hands he held a lyre that seemed to be made of condensed starlight, its strings vibrating with the same celestial music Lyra had been hearing. "Peace be with you, gentle Lyra," Apollo spoke, and his voice was like honey mixed with warm milk, soothing and nourishing at the same time. I have been listening to your heart's music for some time now, and I am deeply moved by its purity. Lyra found that she wasn't afraid despite being in the presence of a god. Apollo's energy was so completely peaceful that fear seemed impossible in his vicinity. Instead, she felt the same sense of coming home that she experienced every morning when she first stepped into her garden. "Your music, my lord?" she asked softly, for she had learned that the most profound conversations often happened in whispers. Apollo smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise. "The music you heard is the sound of harmony itself, the song that plays when all things exist in perfect balance and love. Most mortals cannot hear it because their minds are too busy, their hearts too worried. But you, dear Lyra, have cultivated such stillness within yourself that you have become a living instrument capable of receiving and sharing this divine melody." The sacred teaching. Apollo settled onto the grass near Lyra's bench, moving with the fluid grace of someone who exists in perfect harmony with every moment. His presence didn't diminish the garden's natural beauty, but seemed to enhance it, as if his divine nature reminded every flower and leaf to express its most perfect form. "I have come to offer you a gift," he said, his fingers continuing to caress the lyre strings, creating music that seemed to make the very air more breathable. "But first, let me share with you the secret of true peace, the knowledge that will allow you to carry this celestial harmony wherever you go." Lyra listened with every part of her being, understanding instinctively that she was about to receive wisdom that could transform not only her own life, but the lives of everyone she would ever meet. "The music you heard," Apollo began, "exists always and everywhere. It is the sound of the universe loving itself, the song of creation celebrating its own existence. Most beings cannot hear it because they believe they are separate from each other, from nature, from the divine source that connects all things." He spoke. His lyre seemed to illustrate his words, playing melodies that helped Lyra understand, not just with her mind, but with her heart. "But separation is an illusion, dear one. Every person, every plant, every stone and star and breath of wind is part of one great symphony. When someone remembers this truth, really remembers it, in their bones and blood and deepest heart, they begin to hear the celestial music, and once they hear it, they become capable of helping others remember it too." Apollo's eyes met Lyra's, and in that moment, she felt the truth of his words resonate through every fiber of her being. She had always sensed this connection, this underlying unity, but now she understood it with crystal clarity. The gift of divine harmony. "The gift I offer you," Apollo continued, his voice growing even softer, like silk being drawn across flower petals, "is the ability to share this celestial music with others, not through sound alone, but through your very presence." He reached into the golden light that seemed to surround him and withdrew what appeared to be a small crystal, though it pulsed with inner warmth like a captured star. "This is a fragment of pure harmony," he explained, placing it gently in Lyra's palm. "It will help you remember, even in difficult moments, that peace is always available. When you hold this and breathe deeply, you will reconnect with the divine music, and others around you will feel its effects. As the crystal touched her skin, Lyra felt a wave of the most profound tranquility she had ever experienced wash through her entire being. It was as if every tension she had ever carried, every small worry or fear, simply dissolved like morning mist in sunlight. But remember, Apollo said, his form beginning to shimmer like heat waves on a summer day, the true power lies not in the crystal, but in your willingness to be still, to listen, and to trust in the underlying goodness of existence. The crystal is merely a reminder of what you already carry within your heart. As the god began to fade back into the golden morning light, his final words floated on the air like a blessing. Share this peace, dear Lyra. Help others. Remember the music that connects us all. The ripple of peace. From that morning forward, Lyra's gift grew stronger and more beautiful with each passing day. The crystal, which she wore on a simple cord around her neck, seemed to pulse gently in rhythm with her heartbeat, a constant reminder of her connection to the divine harmony Apollo had revealed to her. Word of her presence began to spread beyond Armona, though not through any effort of her own. Travelers who stopped in the village would leave feeling mysteriously refreshed and peaceful. Merchants who had been tense and hurried would find themselves moving more slowly, speaking more kindly to their customers. Even the most anxious visitors would discover that their worries seemed less urgent after spending time in Lyra's presence. She continued to tend her garden, which had become even more beautiful since Apollo's visit. The flowers seemed to bloom larger and more fragrant. The herbs grew with unusual vigor, and the fruit trees produced yields that sustained not only Lyra, but many of her neighbors as well. Children were especially drawn to her garden. They would arrive with scraped knees and hurt feelings, and leave with peaceful smiles and hearts full of wonder. Lyra never preached or lectured. She simply existed in her natural state of calm presence, and somehow this was enough to remind others of their own capacity for peace. The troubled visitor. One autumn evening, as golden leaves drifted down like gentle prayers, a stranger arrived in Armona. Unlike the usual peaceful travelers who found their way to the village, this man carried with him an aura of deep distress. His clothes were fine but disheveled, his face etched with lines of worry and sleepless nights. He was a merchant from Athens, wealthy and successful by all external measures, but consumed by anxiety about his business, his family, and his future. He had heard whispered rumors of a place where peace could be found, though he barely believed such a thing was possible. The stranger made his way to the village inn, but found himself unable to rest. The weight of his worries pressed down upon him like a stone on his chest. In desperation, he stepped outside into the cool night air, hoping that a walk might tire him enough to sleep. Without conscious intention, his feet carried him toward the soft glow emanating from Lyra's garden. She was there, as she often was in the evenings, sitting quietly beneath her olive tree. The crystal around her neck caught the moonlight, creating tiny rainbows in the darkness. "Peace be with you, traveler," she said softly, her voice carrying the same quality that Apollo's had possessed, gentle, warm, and infinitely welcoming. The healing conversation. The merchant found himself sitting on the soft grass beside Lyra's bench, though he couldn't quite remember deciding to do so. For the first time in months, the constant chatter of worry in his mind began to quiet. I don't know why I'm here, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I've lost my way somehow. I have everything I thought I wanted. Wealth, status, respect. But I feel empty inside, as if I'm racing towards something that keeps moving further away. Lyra listened without judgment, her presence as soothing as warm water on tired muscles. Sometimes, she said gently, we forget that we are already whole. We spend so much energy chasing after things we believe will complete us that we miss the completeness that exists right here, right now. As she spoke, she unconsciously touched the crystal at her throat, and a wave of the celestial music Apollo had shared with her seemed to flow outward, inaudible but deeply felt. The merchant's breathing began to slow and deepen. In my garden, Lyra continued, I've learned that plants don't struggle to grow. They simply open themselves to what is available. Sunlight, water, soil, and trust in their own natural unfolding. Perhaps we humans have forgotten how to do the same. The merchant looked around the moonlit garden, seeing it as if for the first time. The beauty wasn't forced or artificial. It was simply the natural result of loving attention and patience. He felt something tight in his chest begin to loosen. The night of understanding. They sat together in comfortable silence as the night deepened around them. Gradually, the merchant became aware of sounds he had never noticed before. The gentle conversation of leaves, the distant song of a nightingale, the soft whisper of his own breath moving in and out of his lungs. I can hear it, he whispered in amazement. There's music everywhere. Lyra smiled, remembering her own first experience of the celestial harmony. It was always there, she said. We simply forgot to listen. As the hours passed, the merchant felt layers of tension and anxiety melting away, like snow in spring sunshine. He told Lyra about his fears, his regrets, his desperate need to control every aspect of his life. She listened with the same gentle attention she gave to her plants, offering no advice, no solutions, simply the gift of her peaceful presence. Gradually, he began to remember things he had forgotten, the joy he once felt in simple pleasures, the love he had for his family that had become buried under worry about providing for them, the dreams he had abandoned in pursuit of security. What if I can't hold on to this feeling when I return to my life? He asked as dawn began to lighten the eastern sky. Lyra reached into a small pouch at her side and withdrew a tiny seed. Plant this in your garden at home, she said. Tend it with the same patience and love you would show a frightened child. As it grows, let it remind you that peace is not something you must earn or achieve. It is something you can choose to remember, moment by moment. The spreading light. The merchant left Armona that morning, carrying with him not only the seed, but also the memory of peace. He returned to Athens a changed man, moving through his business dealings with a new quality of calm presence that affected everyone around him. His employees noticed that he no longer shouted when things went wrong, but instead found creative solutions with a clear mind. His family marveled at his renewed ability to truly listen to their concerns, without immediately jumping to fix or worry. Gradually, his home became a place of refuge, not just for his own family, but for neighbors and friends who sensed the peace that had taken root there. The seed Lyra had given him sprouted into a beautiful flowering tree that became the centerpiece of his garden. Under its shade, he would sit each evening, remembering the celestial music and allowing it to restore his spirit after the demands of the day. Meanwhile, in Armona, Lyra continued her quiet work of tending both her garden and the hearts of those who found their way to her. Apollo visited her occasionally, always in the gentlest way, sometimes as a warm breeze that carried the scent of laurel, sometimes as a particularly beautiful sunset that painted her garden in shades of gold and rose. Each visit reminded her that the gift she had been given was not hers to keep, but to share, like water from a spring that grows stronger the more it flows. The circle completes. Years passed like gentle seasons, each bringing its own beauty and lessons. Lyra's garden became a place of pilgrimage for those seeking peace, though she never advertised its existence or claimed any special powers. Word spread naturally, carried by the hearts of those who had been touched by the divine harmony she helped them remember. The village of Armona itself became known throughout Greece as a place where tired souls could find rest. But the true magic wasn't in any special location. It was in the understanding that peace exists wherever someone chooses to cultivate stillness, compassion, and trust in the underlying goodness of life. On quiet evenings when the sun painted the sky in soft pastels and the first stars began to appear, Lyra would sit beneath her olive tree and listen to the celestial music that had first awakened her gift. But now she knew that she was not just listening to it. She had become part of it, her life a note in the great symphony of existence. Apollo's words echoed in her memory. Help others remember the music that connects us all. And in her gentle way, through nothing more than her willingness to live in peace and share that peace with others, she had done exactly that. The music played on, as it always had and always would, available to anyone with the wisdom to be still and listen, the courage to trust in love, and the generosity to share what they discovered with a world that so desperately needed to remember its own inherent wholeness. Sleepstory ASMR closing. And now, dear dreamer, as our story comes to its gentle close, allow yourself to feel the same peace that filled Lyra's garden. You too carry within you the ability to hear the celestial music, the harmony that connects all things. Feel your body sinking deeper into comfort with each breath, your shoulders releasing their tension, your jaw softening, your mind growing quieter and more still. Like Lyra sitting beneath her olive tree, you are surrounded by invisible threads of love and connection. Every breath you take connects you to the rhythm of the universe itself. Every heartbeat is a note in the great symphony of existence. Let Apollo's gentle lyre music carry you now into the realm of peaceful dreams. The golden strings vibrating with frequencies of pure tranquility, each note dissolving any remaining worries or tensions. You are safe. You are loved. You are part of something infinitely beautiful and peaceful. The celestial music plays on through your dreams tonight, reminding you even in sleep that you are whole, you are connected, and you are exactly where you need to be. Sleep now, gentle soul. Let the music of the spheres carry you to the most restful, restorative sleep, drifting, floating, peaceful and free. Sweet dreams.